There's a moment in every conscious life when the silence starts to whisper back. You begin to see things you weren't supposed to see, not in the world, but inside yourself. You realize that the darkness you've spent your whole life trying to escape was never hiding under your bed, never living in the eyes of cruel people, never lurking in some distant memory. It was breathing quietly beneath your own heartbeat. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Those words are a mirror, and most people are terrified of looking into it. Because if you truly understood what Jung meant, you'd realize that your life isn't a story being written by circumstances, but by everything you've repressed. Every part of you you've refused to see. The anger, jealousy, envy, fear, pride, it all gathers in the basement of your mind, waiting patiently. It becomes what Jung called the shadow. The shadow isn't evil, it's simply the truth, the raw, uncensored parts of your soul that you've banished in order to be accepted. Since childhood, you were taught to divide yourself. The good you show the world, and the dark you bury inside. But here's the cruel irony. What you bury doesn't die. It learns how to move without your permission. It becomes the invisible hand shaping your reactions, your relationships, your habits, your life. Think about the times you've said, "I don't know why I did that." That was your shadow speaking. Every time you explode with anger and later say it wasn't like you. Every time you fall for the same kind of person, the same pain, the same heartbreak. Every time you pretend to forgive but secretly wish they'd suffer. That's the shadow, not hiding in the dark, but living in you. It doesn't wear horns. It wears your face when you're tired of pretending. It doesn't whisper evil. It whispers honesty, the kind you can't handle yet. You see, the shadow feeds on denial. The more you suppress, the stronger it becomes. Jung warned that the greatest danger to humanity isn't the monster outside, but the one that lives quietly inside every good person who refuses to see their own capacity for destruction. History proves it. Wars, cruelty, betrayal, they weren't born from demons. They were born from repressed human beings, projecting their darkness onto others. Projection, that's how the shadow survives. You deny your envy and call others arrogant. You bury your greed and judge others as selfish. You suppress your anger and see the world as unfair. In reality, the things that trigger you the most are simply mirrors reflecting what you haven't accepted. Every enemy you hate outside of you is just your shadow wearing someone else's skin. But here's the real tragedy. If you spend your life running from your darkness, you also run from your power. Because hidden within that same shadow lies everything you once were. Your instincts, creativity, passion, assertiveness, courage. All the raw energy of life itself. When you suppress it, you don't become pure, you become fragmented. You walk through life half awake, half alive, pretending to be good while secretly starving for truth. Facing your shadow isn't about becoming better. It's about becoming whole. Because if you don't integrate it, it will possess you. It will appear in your words, your tone, your eyes. It will control you from the depths. The real spiritual journey isn't about escaping darkness. It's about carrying light into it. And that's the paradox Jung wanted you to understand. The more light you bring, the more darkness you reveal. You can't purify yourself by rejecting what's human in you. You can only transform it by awareness. When you start to watch your anger, your jealousy, your pain, not to judge but to understand, you begin to reclaim what was lost. Maybe the reason you feel so exhausted isn't because you're broken, but because you've been fighting yourself for too long. The war within is heavier than any burden outside, but there's peace waiting in that darkness, not the peace of ignorance, but the peace of integration. In the end, you can't hide from the shadow because it isn't behind you, it's beneath your skin. And the moment you dare to turn inward, you realize the darkness was never your enemy. It was your teacher. If this message speaks to you, it means you've already started to awaken. You've already felt that pull between who you are and who you pretend to be. Don't look away now. Let this be the beginning of your descent, not into despair, but into honesty. Comment this phrase to seal your awareness. I don't fear my shadow. I face it. And if this truth resonates with your soul, subscribe and stay close. This journey into the depths has just begun. You think you choose your relationships. You think you fall in love because of chemistry or friendship or destiny. But what if I told you that most of what you call attraction is actually your shadow looking for itself in another person? The truth is unsettling. We don't fall in love with people. We fall in love with our projections. Carl Jung wrote that the shadow doesn't just live inside you, it builds the world around you. It hides in your choices, your attractions, your resentments. It creates invisible patterns that repeat until you see them. Every time you say, "Why do I always end up with the same kind of person?" The answer is simple, and because your shadow hasn't finished its lesson. You see, the ego seeks comfort, but the shadow seeks truth. The ego wants peace, but the shadow wants integration. And integration never feels peaceful in the beginning. It feels like chaos, heartbreak, confusion. That's why the people who trigger you the most are your greatest teachers. They awaken what you've buried. They make you face the mirror you've avoided your entire life. When someone betrays you, your shadow whispers, "Now you will see how much you still depend on others for validation." When someone rejects you, it says, "Now you will feel the wound you've been pretending doesn't exist." When someone loves you too deeply, it asks, "Can you truly receive love without control, without fear, without guilt?" We don't meet others by accident. We meet them at the level of our unresolved wounds. The world is built as a stage where your unconscious plays out its hidden desires. Jung called this the process of individuation, the painful, sacred unfolding of becoming whole. And it begins not when you find the perfect partner, but when you face the imperfect reflection of yourself in another's eyes. The shadow hides behind romance. It disguises itself as passion, jealousy, obsession, control. It's not trying to ruin you, it's trying to reveal you. It uses the language of emotion to show you what still needs healing. That's why true love isn't comfortable, it's surgical. It cuts through the illusion of who you think you are. If you want to find your shadow, pay attention to your reactions. Who makes you angry for no logical reason? Who makes you feel small, inferior, unseen? Who makes you jealous even though you trust them? Those moments are maps. The people who disturb your peace are not enemies. They are mirrors reflecting the parts of you you've refused to love. And this is where most people give up. They run. They call the mirror toxic or negative, but the shadow doesn't vanish when you run. It follows you into your next relationship, your next job, your next friend. You can change faces, cities, and lovers, but until you face what you project, you will relive the same story with new actors. Healing begins when you stop blaming others for showing you who you are, because what you hate in them is what you haven't healed in yourself. The moment you understand that, the pattern begins to break. You stop chasing people to fill your wounds and start understanding the wound itself. And here lies a terrifying freedom. When you face your shadow in relationships, you begin to see how much of your love was built on control, fear, or need. The illusion of love starts to die, but in its death, something real is born. Compassion. Not pity, not attachment. Pure compassion. The ability to see someone's darkness without trying to fix it, because you've already made peace with your own. That's what Jung meant when he said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Real connection isn't about completion, it's about collision. It's the sacred friction that awakens the unconscious into light. So if your relationships are falling apart, don't see it as punishment. See it as an initiation. The shadow is peeling away the layers of illusion so you can finally meet yourself, raw, unmasked, real. The question isn't, why do they keep hurting me? The real question is, what in me keeps inviting the same wound to return? Until you answer that, the cycle continues. The shadow will keep orchestrating the same story, not to punish you, but to wake you up. If these words resonate, you're not broken, you're awakening. You're standing at the threshold of truth. The people you've lost weren't mistakes. They were mirrors that cracked so you could finally see what was hidden beneath the surface. Comment this phrase to affirm your awareness. My shadow doesn't destroy me, it reveals me. And if you're walking through this same process, subscribe. This is your space to remember that you're not alone in the darkness. We're all learning to see with our eyes open. The ego is a clever architect. It builds walls so high that you forget there was ever a sky. It convinces you that what you see, what you believe, and what you call yourself is all that exists. But beneath those walls, something ancient stirs, something the ego is terrified of. That's your shadow. The ego doesn't fear darkness because it's evil. It fears it because it's honest. You see, the ego survives by pretending to be pure. It feeds on illusions of control, superiority, and identity. It says, I am this, I am not that. But the moment you start integrating the parts you've rejected, the ego begins to lose its power. And that feels like death. This is what Jung meant by ego death. It's not a mystical explosion where you transcend the world. It's a slow, painful disintegration of everything false that you believed about yourself. The ego is the mask you wear to survive the crowd. The shadow is the face beneath it, and yet the ego tells you the shadow is dangerous. It tells you, don't go there, you'll lose control. But here's the paradox. You already lost control the moment you believed the mask was you. Think about it. Every time someone criticizes you, why does it hurt so much? Because the ego has built a fragile identity that depends on constant validation. It needs others to mirror the illusion back to you. Without that reflection, it begins to crack. And when it cracks, the shadow seeps through. The anger, shame, jealousy, all the parts you've hidden, rush to the surface. That's why ego deaths feel like collapse. They strip away the decorations of who you thought you were. But this collapse is sacred, because only when the false self breaks can the true self breathe again. Still, the ego fights to survive. It uses clever weapons. Denial, that's not me. Projection, they're the problem. Spiritual bypassing, I'm above this now. Perfectionism, if I fix everything, I'll finally be enough. Each of these is a wall the ego builds to protect its illusion. It keeps you busy with performance instead of transformation. It whispers, stay good, stay calm, stay light. But in truth, it's begging, please don't expose me. The shadow doesn't destroy the ego. It simply shows it that it was never the whole story. Integration is not about killing the ego. It's about putting it in its rightful place. The ego should serve consciousness, not rule it. The most dangerous illusion is spiritual superiority. When the ego disguises itself as enlightenment, you start to believe you've transcended your humanity. You quote wisdom but avoid feeling. You talk about light but refuse to look at your wounds. Jung warned that this form of unconsciousness is worse than ignorance because it pretends to be awake. Real awakening isn't a halo, it's a mirror. It forces you to see the filth and the beauty together and to love both without lying to yourself. You can't integrate your shadow if you keep pretending to be perfect. The universe doesn't heal through pretending, it heals through truth. And truth is often uncomfortable, raw, and humbling. The ego wants applause. The shadow wants authenticity. And one day, you'll have to choose which one you serve. Maybe this is why people avoid silence. Because silence reveals the ego's noise. In stillness, there's no audience to perform for, just you, the truth, and the things you've buried. But if you stay long enough in that silence, something incredible happens. The walls start to crumble, and you begin to feel free. Not because you became someone else, but because you stopped being a lie. Every wound you face weakens the ego and strengthens your soul. Every time you resist the temptation to blame, you become more conscious. Every time you sit with your pain instead of escaping, you take one step closer to wholeness. This is why Jung said, There is no coming to consciousness without pain. The pain is not a punishment, it's purification. It burns away the masks until what remains is real. Your shadow isn't trying to drag you into darkness. It's trying to pull you into integrity. But you must be brave enough to lose the person you think you are, to meet the one you truly are. Comment this phrase to affirm your awakening. I am not my mask. I am what remains when it falls. And if these words feel like they were written for you, subscribe, because this path isn't for the faint of heart. It's for those who dare to see, to break, and to become whole. So here you are, standing at the threshold between who you were and who you are becoming. You've seen the masks fall. You've watched the illusions crumble. You've met your shadow face to face. But now comes the hardest part. Not running from it, not fighting it, but integrating it. Integration is not a victory. It's not the dramatic moment when you finally defeat your darkness. It's quieter than that. It's the moment you stop treating your shadow as an enemy and start recognizing it as a forgotten part of your soul. The world tells you to kill your demons. Jung tells you to bring them home. Because the moment you stop rejecting what you are, you begin to heal what you became. Integration begins with honesty. Radical, uncomfortable honesty. It's sitting with the thought you don't want to think. It's acknowledging the feeling you wish you didn't have. It's saying, yes, I'm capable of jealousy, of hate, of pride, of rage. And yes, I'm also capable of forgiveness, creation, and love. Both are true. Both are you. The shadow hides in your perfectionism. It hides in the need to be loved, in the fear of being ordinary, in the obsession with being good. It hides in your silence when you should speak, and in your performance when you should rest. To integrate it, you must see how it operates in your everyday life, not as a monster in the dark, but as a whisper behind every decision. Every time you feel triggered, stop. Don't run. Don't justify. Don't project. Just watch. That moment of discomfort is the doorway. What you feel is what you've buried. And the moment you can look at it without judgment, the shadow starts to dissolve. Because light doesn't destroy darkness, it makes it visible. And what becomes visible loses its power to control you. That's the secret of integration. Awareness, not fighting, not fixing, not purifying. Just awareness. Calm, steady, compassionate awareness. When you learn to hold your darkness with the same tenderness you hold your light, you become whole. That's what Jung called the union of opposites, the divine paradox of being both sinner and saint, both chaos and order, both human and divine. And when you reach that place, something profound happens. You stop judging others so harshly. You stop trying to save them, change them, or expose them. You understand that every person you meet is fighting a war they can't explain. You stop seeing evil as out there and start seeing it as in here. The same energy, just expressed differently. That's real compassion. The kind that doesn't come from purity, but from understanding. Integration doesn't make you flawless. It makes you authentic. You still get angry, but you understand your anger. You still feel fear, but you no longer obey it. You still experience pain, but you see what it's teaching you. This is what it means to live consciously. Not as a saint, but as a human being who sees with open eyes. You begin to understand that darkness was never here to destroy you. It was here to awaken you. And once you integrate it, your presence changes. You no longer enter a room trying to prove who you are. You carry a quiet gravity, the peace of someone who's not hiding anymore. People feel it. They don't know why, but they feel safe around you because you're no longer at war with yourself. The shadow that once haunted you becomes your ally, the guardian of your depth, your creativity, your truth. What was once your wound becomes your wisdom. What was once your fear becomes your power. So if you're still in the dark right now, if you're still afraid of what you might find inside yourself, don't run. The darkness isn't chasing you. It's calling you, the same way the night calls to the dawn, not to destroy it, but to give it contrast. Comment this phrase if you're ready to live awake. I have made peace with my darkness, and if you've walked this far with me, subscribe, because this journey doesn't end in the light. It ends in wholeness. Welcome to the art of living with eyes open in a world that still sleeps.